Welcome back to Nineworks TV. It's another one take wonder today. We're next to the chilly waters here at Lakeside Classics, where I'm standing next to what is without doubt one of my favourite watercool Porsche 911s. It's the 50th anniversary. Now in this video we're going to take a look at the spec and look at why I think this car is really special. We're then going to take it out for a drive where I can hopefully hammer the point home for you a little bit more. What I also want to say is I kind of feel like I've got a little bit of an emotional attachment to the 50th anniversary. I was actually at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 2013 when the car was launched. It made its world debut exactly, I think almost to the week, 50 years after Porsche first introduced the 911. It made its world premiere, which was also at the Frankfurt Motor Show. Now with this 50th anniversary, which quite obviously is built to celebrate half a century of continuous 911 production and just shy of 1 million examples as it was at the time. Its public debut, its world premiere at Frankfurt, was overshadowed somewhat from other metal within Porsche's own stable. It shared the stage with the 918 Spider, for example. Does anyone remember what happened to that car? So journalists and the suits at Porsche were, quite rightly really, all around that car. Even within the realms of 911, the 50 Yara shared the stage with the 991.1 Turbo and Turbo S as we know it now. That also made its world premiere on stage at the Frankfurt Motor Show. But one of these was sitting in the corner there, finished in Geyser Grey, which is one of 3 colours that the 50th anniversary came in: Geyser, Graphite Grey, or this monochrome black. But it was nevertheless a very special car, and that kind of debut I felt is a pretty good marker of the story of this car since. Really, really special, but not given anywhere near enough credit as I think these cars should garner. They are really special. Let's take a look around now at the spec of the car in a little bit more detail, where I shall jump on to camera number 2. Its spec was designed to be reminiscent of the earliest 911s, okay? So in terms of its engineering, that meant it was a naturally aspirated flat 6 engine with power going to the rear wheels only and with a manual shifter, okay? So the manual gearbox was standard on these. Most of them came with PDK, however. So it's based on what we now know as the 991.1 Carrera S. The 50th anniversary, however, did come with, as I'm hoping I can highlight here, the C4 wide body car, so 44mm wider across the rear. It came with a lavish specification, including Sport PASM, which lowers the ride height by about 10mm compared to the normal Carrera. Sport exhaust was standard as well. Sport chrono pack was standard. There was a power kit which was standard specification in most countries apart from here. We'll talk about that a bit later. But in terms of design hallmarks, again, it was cleverly designed by legends at Porsche, including a friend of Nineworks, Mr. Tony Hatter, who also designed the 993 Carrera GT and GT1 to look like the original 911, hence the Fuchs style wheels. While on the front we've got chrome slats in the air intake. We have got chrome around the mirrors. And this is one of the details I really love, just like those early Luft air-cooled 911s, we've got chrome grille strips on the deck lid. On this, what would become on the GTS models that followed the light bar in between the 2 lights. This was chrome here. Chrome lettering for the Porsche script, and then it had a special 3D and 2-tone badge depicting 91150. Then we've got quad exhaust tips for the sport exhaust. What I will show you quickly, and for those of you that like a bit of a quiz, if I show you in there, we've got a rad, and you think, well, I don't usually have one in the middle there, do we, on Carreras? Well, some of you may know what that means. If we pop this and go to the back, it does mean exclusive power kit. Now, as I said, this came as standard spec on the majority of 50th anniversaries in other countries. Seems to have stood on a shell there. Where is it? There we go. In the UK, it wasn't. It was an optional extra, which is ludicrous. I never got to the bottom of why. It cost north of £9,000. And this car at Lakeside Classics has it. And it really does help elevate the character of this 50th anniversary. Let's take a look inside the car because the awesome spec continues. We've got the 911-50 kit plate here. Apologies, that's my sandy foot. We've got contrast stitching, a lovely brushed aluminium effect, again, just like those early cars. And again, another key design hallmark are the Pepita pattern seats. By the way, the seats themselves, as standard, were 14-way sport seats, or optional as here, were the 18-way sport seats plus. And at that point, I'll jump in the car before I catch a chill. Okay, so I've got these on, but before I switch off, I want to show ahead of me with these five, the iconic 5 dials of the 911. One is obviously digital as per the standard 991.1 fare. But ahead of me, the analog dials are white needles with green dials, reminiscent of, might I add, the very, very, very early Porsche 911s. I think that was pre-B series, so up before 1967 or 8. Really early 911s had, green dials with white needles. And the team at Weissach, because this car was designed at Weissach, have managed to reinterpret that for the modern age. Now, what's really clever here, and this is what I'm told again by my good friend, Mr. Hatter, he said that it wasn't just a case of, make sure I turn that off, I can't do two things at once. It wasn't just a case of plopping, a green face on these clocks. It had to be, like everything in this car, done properly, type approved, and that involved getting the backlighting correct, which Mr. Hatter said was a lot more difficult than I think any of us normal people will appreciate or realise. So again, it's kind of a marker of the quiet yet classy engineering that just goes into this 50th anniversary and makes it so special. This is a limited numbered production car like the 40th and the 30th before it, and indeed the 60th anniversary, otherwise known as the ST. I mentioned 1,963 of them made. This one here at Lakeside is number 0761, as told by the plaque on the cup holder panel. I think at that stage we should fire this car up and go for a drive. As I said, naturally aspirated flat six engine. The capacity, because it is based on the Carrera S engine, is 3.8 litres, 400 horsepower without the power kit. With the power kit here, it's 430 horsepower, okay? That's it. I'll just quickly go and get my cameras and pop the trade plates on, and then we'll head out for a drive in this lovely 50th anniversary 911. Really lovely exhaust note. So the 3.8 litre DFI, it's so lovely to be in this car. It feels special. It feels like you're being transported back to the 1960s. Again, with the green dials, the Pepita as well, which is really, it's masterly. And, I mean, let's get going. I might add as well that this is way before a time of the kick-off, really, for the modern age of the Sonderwunsch department, Porsche exclusive. And I mean, yeah, we've all seen Pepita seats or Pepita centres in the seats of Porsche 911s, haven't we? But this was done at Porsche before it became cool again, and before it became kind of, like a mainstream thing to do. And it really does look superb for it. And 12 years on as well, might I add, it still looks superb. I mean, these seats are barely worn, which is brilliant considering the mileage here is 64,520 as it stands today. So it's very much been a car that's driven, not hidden, and is ready for you to put more miles on it. I mean, I can think of no better car as a daily, this would be the most exquisite daily driver. The other thing I'd like to point out, which is why there is a little red dot at the top of the windscreen visible on the outside, is with this being a Lakeside Classics car for sale on the Nineworks marketplace, the red dot means it's yet to go through Lakeside's vigorous 90-point mechanical inspection that all cars go through prior to sale. The car will also be serviced and ready to go before sale. Its service history, by the way, is full Porsche. It was London, Mayfair, Porsche Bournemouth, and then the next one will be at Lakeside Classics prior to sale. This car, like all Lakeside Classics cars, will come with a six-month warranty alongside a 12-month MOT. So it's going to be ready to go so that you can get in and enjoy this car just as much as the previous custodian did, because 64,500 miles is admirable. So as I said, for whatever reason, I've never got to the bottom of it. The power kit was not available as standard spec on the 50th anniversary in the UK. It was everywhere else. Here it was a £9,000 option, which has this car has, so very expensive. This car also has, which to be fair most 50th anniversaries did, has the PDK transmission. It was a £2,500 option at the time. Again, as standard, the 50th came with a manual, which would be my choice. And whilst I used to really begrudge cars, the 50th anniversaries that came with a PDK gearbox, I actually get it now, because again, as a car that you can jump in and use as a daily driver, it just marries up perfectly. So I can forgive and even appreciate it these days. As I said, 1,963 cars made for worldwide markets. Now, according to my research, there were 88 cars that came to the UK. 88, not a lot. Of the 88 cars, how many do you think were manual? 5. Again, according to my research, 5 manual cars. The next question is, if you're going down that kind of rarity route, is, well, how many 50th anniversaries came, as Porsche intended, with manual gearbox and the X51 power kit? So far as I know in the UK, 1. But as I said, a newfound appreciation for the PDK married to this car. And I just very quickly want to just kind of go back on my own personal tie with these cars. So saw it at Frankfurt. I was then lucky enough to get some seat time in the UK press car. I'm sure I'll insert here a dodgy picture I've got with the A911 number plate. Took it up to the Hartside Pass and put it against the 30th and 40th anniversary 911s. And I loved that car. Now, fast forward to earlier this year, 2025, and we did a road trip around Northumberland with the Driven Not Hidden Collective. And one of the most exquisite blokes I've ever met, Rory, brought his 50th anniversary along. And that car also has the power kit fitted to it. And he let me drive it on the Hartside Pass again. I was retracing my own steps. That's not why these cars are special. It's just another great memory I have with that car, which I appreciate. Probably not why you're watching this video. So we'll talk about why this car is special. The Sport PASM chassis is interesting because, as I said, this has the wide body, which was de facto on the GTS, but the GTS hadn't arrived back in 2013. It would be another year or so before the GTS arrived. So this was unique at the time in being rear-wheel drive under a wide body. Now again, there was some fine-tuning needed to be done by Porsche with the Sport PASM chassis, which is specifically tuned for this rear-wheel drive and wide-body setup. Track widths, exactly the same, because this is a question I have been asked a lot by members of the Driven Not Hidden Collective this morning when I said, I'm driving this car, what would you like to know? The big thing is, what's the difference between this and the GTS? We'll get on to that exact question a little bit later, but in terms of spec, because they're both wide body and C2 GTS is a rear drive, the track width at the front is the same. I think it's 60.7 or 60.9 inches. It's slightly different at the back. The GTS track width is slightly wider than this, as a little quirk, okay? I think the engine is pretty much warmed up now. So let's just go this way and take a quick look. I'm loath to put the shades on. So 3.8 litre direct fuel injection, 430 horsepower with the power kit. Now, as I said earlier on, with the turbocharged Carreras that followed, if we look at the GTS, they got the power kit, 30 horsepower-ish increase, but it was basically a remat, whereas the 991.1 X51 power kit and before, they were genuine mechanical changes to give a 30 horsepower upgrade here to 430 horsepower, and it really does, the noise, wonderful. It really does change the characteristics of the engine. Power delivery I find to be a lot smoother in gear, particularly in the mid-range. A noticeable punch in the mid-range, and then when you get near to the top of the red line, that sounds delightful. But yeah, when you get to near the red line at about 7.5 grand, I mean, the thing is singing. Continuing with why this car is special and the lavish spec that it's got, basically. Sport chrono pack came with, which includes the chrono clock up there. It also comes with Porsche Sport exhaust, which is switchable. I'm in normal mode currently, but you can turn it on down here. I much prefer the buttons on the centre console in the 991.1 compared to the, it feels like a cheap mode wheel in the Dot 2. Really nice weighting to it, nice sound as well. Not sure if you can pick that up. It's a switchable exhaust. It sounds amazing. I mean, 991.1 for me is like peak 911 soundtrack, particularly for the modern age. It sounds phenomenal. Let's pop it into sport. I'm in automatic PDK mode, but I've just popped it into manual by sliding the shifter to the left. Then I'm on the paddles because the sport wheel was also standard spec on the 50th anniversary, or the 50 Yara, as it's otherwise known. Let's just try and listen to the soundtrack for a bit. Speed limit here. It sounds phenomenal, this thing, and again, naturally aspirated. The pickup and response is beautiful, really, really nice. And again, just playing with that throttle on the mid-range, just really, really smooth power delivery. The power kit is a work of art. If you've never driven one, you'll never understand or appreciate it. Really, really good bit of kit. I think at this stage we'll turn around and head back the other way. I'm sorry to the Lakeside team for getting it dirty on these wintry roads, but therein I think is the ideal the ideal use case of the car, where it's a Carrera derivative. It's not too low, but it's a great place to be. It's the 991 platform, which really took the 911, I think, elevated it in terms of the inside. It's a lavish place to sit. It feels spacious but not too gargantuan, which is a great word to say, with this Panamera-esque centre console as well. It's just so well judged, and particularly in the modern age where we've got the 992 with a cinema screen in the middle and the completely digital dash. For me, this is just the perfect and most beautifully considered throwback to the early 911s, with those classic and analogue dials, which their presence alone is of high interest to an enthusiast. This is an enthusiast car. The big question everyone would like to know then is the differences between the anniversary, the 50th anniversary, and the GTS, because on paper they're quite similar. You know, which car is the better driver's car? Well, again, the GTS came out a model year or so later, and there are always incremental changes from one model year to the next. Porsche doesn't just bang a car out and go on holiday for 6 months. And there are some changes with the GTS, some improvements that I think mean the GTS edges it slightly, but only in a couple of areas, and really it comes down to steering. The GTS steering is slightly smoother. That's it, really. Otherwise, I think for me there's not a lot in it. Again, slightly wider track width. I feel like carrying speed in the GTS could be slightly easier. I'll have to check the weights on them both, but for me, between the two cars, and this is splitting hairs at this point, it comes down to the steering. GTS slightly, ever so slightly smoother, but what this car has that the GTS doesn't is that limited numbered production run and the really cool, genuinely unique specification. I can't over-emphasise just how cool it is to sit in this car and to see these seats. It's a complete throwback to the 1960s, which, as I said, if you're a 911 enthusiast like me, it's just such a great place to be. Let's leave it in manual. Fantastic. I think that covers everything. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the details of this car and many more on the Nineworks Marketplace, and we'll see you again soon on Nineworks TV.